And we are live. Welcome back to the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. And tonight we actually have a guest with us as well. Please welcome Matt.
Hello.
Hey.
Matty K in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Right in my ear.
I love it. I love it.
Jesus. Oh god. Oh, I'm Derek, by the way.
Yeah, I'm Reed.
I'm actually Jeremy.
This is all true. We got some good topics here tonight. We're going to be talking about the Sony and Fortnite thing that just happened. 'Cause Sony finally gave in, guys. You actually did something.
Listen, we're here on the front lines, changing the world.
Devil May Cry has some microtransactions that are making people a little upset. And the last thing that we're covering is Total War and their
Review
just
bombing.
Yeah, review bombing and just in general the outrage culture that's surrounding it. But before we get into it, Reed, you've got some reviews for us. All the games that came out this month.
This is the last episode of the month, and so we're just gonna quickly recap a lot of the major titles that came out this month. Actually, a lot of not new games, but a lot of ports. It seems like a lot of games are crossing over to the Switch. But I'll hit the new games first. First up, we've got not necessarily a game, but it's the Destiny 2 Forsaken DLC was released. A lot of critics were happy with it. It got pretty high ratings, like 90 on IGN, overall an 84 on Metacritic. But a lot of bad user reviews. It's got sitting at like a 6.2 on Metacritic. Next up, we had wonderful JRPG, Dragon Quest XI. I know you guys were all chomping at the bit for this one. I didn't know Forbes did reviews, but they gave it a perfect 100. IGN Japan gave it 94, but regular IGN only gave it an 88. Overall, it's like an 86 on Metacritic. PUBG came out, crossed over to Xbox One. It's sitting at like an 86 on Metacritic. Immortal Unchained, another game that I had to look up to see what it was, that came out this month, sitting at a nice and toasty 47 on Metacritic. Apparently it's like the shooter version of Dark Souls, and it's absolute garbage. NBA Live 19, which is EA's foray into the NBA franchise, got a pretty lukewarm 74 on Metacritic. Generally, apparently, it's just sort of like it's making it had an improvement on the last version, but didn't really make any changes, so it was kind of seen as sort of like a stagnation. SNK Heroines, which is apparently a fan service fighter, got a pretty mediocre 60 on Metacritic. But it was the most diverse one. I mean, digitally downloaded gave it a 90, while Critical Hit only gave it a 35. So it was kind of one of the more crazy ones. Little known title called Spider-Man came out this month, and that is sitting close to 90 on Metacritic, and the fans seem to love it. Most ratings are at 9 or above. NBA 2K19, which is the competitor to the other NBA game, it got about an 8.7, a little bit better than the other ones, but it's kind of been around for longer, a little bit more developed. And then probably the big quiet game is Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out, which was really, really interesting, I thought, because it generally got really, really good reviews by the critics, sitting at like 78, 83, 81, but it's a lot of the fans were about 10 lowers, like 76, 73, 72. And it seems to be way under the radar. Not a lot of people seem to be following up with it. I have no clue what Light Fighters is. I tried to look it up and I found nothing. Xenoblade Chronicle 2, oh, that's just like Switch. Valkyria Chronicles, a favorite of mine, sort of like a Japanese strategy game, came out. Kind of returned to form. The last ones were garbage. Oh, hey, here's a new release game. The Walking Dead, the final season, episode 2 came out. Man, I can't wait for the next one.
Too soon.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a knife in my heart.
And kind of riding also in the lieu of story games, Life is Strange 2 kicked off with episode 1. About a 77 on Metacritic by the critics. Fans seem to like it a little bit better. They gave it an 8.8. And then last but not least, FIFA just came out FIFA 19 just came out 2 days ago. A lot of people are really hyped for that. And that was actually the last game I was just looking at, and it is. Oh god, I don't know how to spell FIFA. It's sitting at an 84.
It's 4 letters. How can you not spell 4 letters?
Apparently, the reviews are still to be decided, but critic reviews? No, one critic. Okay. Yeah, there's no official reviews in yet, maybe because it just came out, but
It's FIFA. They use the same physics engine. They give it a new name this year. It's still really solid. I like FIFA. I have no complaints.
Yep. And then going back, ports that came over, Bastion, a beloved indie title that came out on the original Xbox 360, that ported over to the Switch. Wasteland 2 ported over. Let's see, Towerfall and Dragon Ball Fighter Z. And those are all Switch ports. So Switch is slowly growing in its library. And that's going to pretty much wrap everything up for this month. And then over here, some big games to look forward to next month. Obviously, Red Dead Redemption and oh, am I looking at the wrong page? I am looking at the wrong. Anyway, it's gonna be a big month next month.
Yep, Red Dead Redemption, new Call of Duty. Got some cool stuff coming out next month.
Yeah, Soul Calibur 6. That's gonna be out.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. All right, so do you guys want to get into it? You want to start off with Sony?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, basically last week, I want to say it was around, it's either Tuesday or Wednesday, if I recall correctly, but so, there's been a pretty large debate in the community. A lot of people, I would, wage that probably most gamers have probably been on the side of wanting crossplay, from Sony for a while now, across, a number of different games, especially the bigger titles, but it seems like in recent years, anyway, Nintendo and Microsoft have been kind of working hand in hand in allowing crossplay for their games. Appease their general audiences. But Sony's been kind of claiming that it's their policy that they're not going to get involved. The crossplay that they've really been open to has been between them and PC. They really did not want to open this up to the other consoles, but so they were previously blocking crossplay between PS4 and Xbox One for Fortnite, Rocket League, and Minecraft, despite Nintendo and Microsoft supporting it.
Yeah, they're kind of rubbing it in their face. Like Nintendo
yeah, no,
and Microsoft had
would.
this little thing going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, he put out a statement. He said that we recognize that PS4 players have been eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community's continued patience and as we have navigated through this issue to find a solution. But I guess they believe that it's just going to be like a major policy change for them now, since they're kind of opening up to Fortnite, and this is going to kind of pave the way for more titles to be included in that. So
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
After
you, sir.
So it's really interesting to see how this all unfolded. I think the biggest takeaway, I guess, for me is it goes to show that these big companies that think that they're untouchable actually can, like, if we push hard enough, we actually can drive them to just in general follow the whims of the consumer, as opposed to what makes them, I think. I mean, because all these excuses that they follow, things like, oh, it's going to improve the quality when you're only playing with PlayStation, or there's so many stupid reasons they gave for why they weren't going to allow crossplay. And I mean, it's nice to finally see them having to. It's nice to see them finally having to face up to that.
Mm-hmm.
well, and we're not really out of the woods yet. I mean, the chairman, Sean Layden, I want to say he put out a quote. He said, I think he was on Twitter. He said, right now we're in a beta test program. And when you beta test something, you try to reduce the number of variables in the equation. So he said right now Fortnite is basically just being beta tested for crossplay. I think that certainly, like, once we can prove that this is holding together and like sturdy and well, that we'd anticipate other games being in this service over time too. So not out of the woods yet. I feel like we talked about this just last week though, about how like Sony was just completely unwilling to budge on this, and it's just kind of funny because like this week it's like the story broke that they're finally starting to budge on this issue, at least starting with Fortnite, and that may like spill over into other games. So it's nice to see them kind of put the past behind them. I believe that they're starting to understand that this is kind of like an inevitable move. Like if they want to survive like in this kind of fast-paced online age of gaming that we're in, where like consumers are going to be able to share their experiences with friends online regardless of like what console they purchase, and that's kind of what they want, that they're going to have to kind of adapt to that like Microsoft and Nintendo has.
It honestly kind of reminds me, as far as reaction based, of when the Xbox One was first announced, and we had the always online features and a couple other things that first came out, and then everyone was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then 2 weeks later, everything started to roll back. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was something similar.
Going back to like the really poor excuses that they're using, it really makes me wonder. It's like, I feel like those aren't actually like the real reasons. Like, this is my hot take maybe, but I think that Sony basically wanted there to be no crossplay because it wanted to sort of perpetuate this sort of like console wars mentality of like, you know, PlayStation people versus Xbox people, because it's sort of like that's kind of a lot of what like sort of PlayStation fed off. I mean, that's really what, you know, jump-started the whole life cycle of the PS4, was basically the whole downfall of Xbox when they had the fucking Kinect and the always on, like the always listening thing that was way blown out of proportion in my opinion. And like I mean, they just got like their PR just got fucking destroyed, and Sony was just on top. And so like they only could benefit by this sort of like perpetuating. I mean, that's kind of my take on it. And so they wanted to basically kind of like keep things separate, keep everything in its own little bubble, and basically say like, hey, fuck everybody else. You need to like, if you want to play like with PS4 people, you have to get a fucking PS4, because this is, you know what I mean? It's like they were kind of like jerking their own dick about it. But that's my take. But.
No, that makes sense. I can see where you're coming from for that. Because I mean, you're right. They have this last console war is what's kept them afloat. Basically, just being able to offer more than other consoles are.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like, I don't even think they fucking needed it. I mean, their games list is fucking killer. I mean, absolutely just. I mean, they could have beaten Xbox on games offerings alone, because it's like.
For exclusives,
Last of Us. Yeah, on exclusives. Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, the fucking Spider-Man, I mean, or God of War. I mean, just like the list goes fucking on and on. I mean, it's fucking brutal. I'm not like a PlayStation guy, but they are like fucking killing it, you know?
Well, and I think that to some extent that, you know, kind of long track record of dominating the exclusives, you know, across the console war that they've been in with Microsoft and Nintendo is been, you know, more or less giving them a big head about expanding crossplay to larger titles like the ones that, you know, a lot of the fans want them to expand to. Like, you know, nobody's really wanting to open up their market for the exclusives. You know, they're talking about the games that are, you know, that should be cross console, like Fortnite, you know, Rocket League, Minecraft, etc., etc. The ones that Nintendo and Microsoft have already been supporting with each other. You know, and that so, you know, Sony is just kind of in their own little corner, you know, trying to, you know, hold all their toys to themselves, you know. And it's like, I feel that, well, kind of like going off of what you were saying, I mean, you know, I think it's fair to say that, yeah, they were probably just paying lip service when they were saying, you know, giving the reasons as to why they're actually doing it now, you know, and trying to appease the fans now, because I do think that there's definitely like an underlying, a real underlying reason. It probably having to do with, you know, the financial aspect of it all. You know, that I think in my opinion, they're feeling the pressure of the consumers finally more or less demanding this out of faith. Because think about it, it took Fortnite to do this. It took Fortnite to get them to push them past that point. And we all know how popular Fortnite is. Like, once they decided not to. Yeah, absolutely. And so once they decided to make it, to kind of stick with their guns on Fortnite, and they felt the backlash as big as that would have been because of that, it was like they realized, okay, we can't kind of continue this more, any longer, or we might lose some, major money here. So I don't know. Maybe they already lost quite a bit of money in their last financial quarter just because of this, but yeah.
I think this is actually way bigger than a lot of people are giving credit for. Because if PlayStation opens up the gate for great gates for crossplay, like this is going to be like the biggest thing for crossplay for, just about everybody. Because like, if you think about it, no one, like for a lot of the AAA titles, like your Call of Duties, your Battlefields or whatnot, there hasn't been like hardly any crossplay, because you can't crossplay PC with Microsoft, because PC gamers would just like fucking destroy console players. And so and it's like not like Microsoft's really going to crossplay into any Nintendo platform, because they've always been so underpowered that they could never even run a AAA game. So it's like this is going to be pretty fucking big. Like for once, it's going to be like actual like Sony versus Microsoft. And I think it's going to breed that whole, maybe it'll be like that whole competition. I don't know if there'll be like a little thing next to their name. It's like, you just got killed by a PlayStation guy. And like, that'll perpetuate it, or if like, I don't know what
See, I can
I do know that in Fortnite, that's the case, yeah. I mean, they do show you like what, they have like a symbol for each console on Fortnite, I guess. You can see it right next to their name, but yeah.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that being kind of the next generation of console. You start noticing that the PlayStation guys or Xbox, I mean, really, I can see that lending itself well to something akin to the faction from For Honor. Basically, each side, where each side is fighting to acquire the most points for their own faction by winning matches, or by getting X number of kills in a match. I could see something like that working in consoles for a game. Kind of like a meta game within the game.
Who do you think is going to be better, like, between the players?
Based off of the markets that seem to be focused right now, I'd say in terms like a multiplayer game, especially a multiplayer shooter, it would be X. Sony doesn't really seem that focused on. Sony doesn't seem that focused on competitive shooters as of right. Yeah, they'll have them. I mean, they're not going to say no to Call of Duty, but where they've really been shining has been single player exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Me, I'm putting all my money on the Switch, guys. Those little motherfuckers are gonna be like, dude, they're like, because think about it, like the only people who play the Switch are kids, man, and kids, they've got those fast reaction times, and they like learn shit faster than anything. That's who's gonna dominate it. Guaranteed.
Yeah, they're gonna take over.
Take it over.
Yeah, they're gonna take over for sure.
I don't know. Opinions, Matt?
Matt just rejoined us.
Matt just rejoined us.
I think he crashed out.
And I'm back.
Welcome
Yeah.
back.
So, as we we were talking about all that stuff. What's your take, Matt?
Well, since you put me on the spot, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, as far as the whole crossplay thing comes, this all comes down to money. I mean, people forget that these are businesses, and that's their number one goal, is just to make as much cash as possible. So Sony probably thought, I honestly agree with Reed, that they don't want to open up their market too much. I mean, I think that's stupid, because they're killing it on exclusives. Like, I'm an Xbox One guy, and I am alone in the dark right now. I mean, it's cold over in Xbox land. I mean, we don't have anything to compare. To Spider-Man, God of War. I mean, there's no equivalent right now. Like, E3 had a couple nice things it showed, but still. As far as that, I mean, everyone, gets their panties in a twist, rightfully so, and then they start opening up. I mean, I think this is something people are just going to have to get used to, unfortunately. You're just going to keep dragging these guys by their fingernails to get them to do anything.
I mean, I think that's just
it seems like that's starting to finally happen, though, and that's kind of I guess that's kind of the big takeaway from this story, is that Sony starting to budge on a policy that they've held for years,
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, it's a lot of companies. I mean, even like I was talking to Ree the other day. I've been playing Battlefront 2. I mean, that's it where I feel like this at least started, or at least a noticeable pushback with like a giant company. I mean, EA completely switched everything around, and the game's better for it. So hopefully, I mean, in a perfect world, you wouldn't have to do it in the first place. But hopefully, something like this will keep going on. The ball will keep rolling.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like dragging companies by their fingernails anywhere seems to be just kind of the climate for AAA.
Money. Cash money millionaire, dude.
Exactly.
On the topic of crossplay, did you guys hear that Microsoft announced the mouse and keyboard support?
Yeah, I did hear about that.
So, of course, so they did say that the developers can choose whether or not they want to allow that to be in their games. So I imagine that most first-person shooters aren't going to kind of let that in. Either that, or you'd have to somehow put them in a different pool, but you're kind of playing with fire, because it's just like...
Well, maybe they can detect the controller and then disable, or at least limit the auto-aim a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to put it so that, like, if the queue for, like, the controller servers, or... I mean, it's one thing to say, because it's like, on Fortnite, you can have all these different servers. Like, in Nintendo, you can choose either to just queue only Nintendo or Nintendo and everything else. But that game is so huge. But most... Like, it'd be hard for a lot of, like, maybe, like, smaller titles. Like, if, like, a Gears of War came out and it wasn't, like, super huge, it's like, they don't have the bankroll to make all those extra servers. So... you know, it's kind of hard to say. I would be interested to see if that does let there be some like cross-play opportunities between PC and Microsoft on maybe some bigger titles, or like PC and Xbox. I mean, but I'm not sure.
Oh, it's
well, doesn't Epic Games make Gears of War as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the same people who make Fortnite make Gears of War. So I'm sure they'll find the means to be able to do that as a studio.
Dude,
but as
Epic makes so much money. Holy shit.
Yeah, they do.
Fucking even PUBG runs on like a Unreal Engine, which is owned by Epic.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So how much longer is Fortnite going to be popular? How long was PUBG popular?
PUBG's popular for 2 years-ish.
So Fortnite probably has like a year and a half. I feel like it gets slower the longer this trend goes on.
I think Fortnite is like the League of Legends to like this genre. It's like there'll be a lot of people that play it for a long time coming, and it won't maybe be as big as its heyday, but I don't know if we've seen like its heyday yet. The game's still fucking growing. And
yeah, I personally I'm not that big of a fan of Fortnite, or just like MOBAs in general. Not MOBAs, the League of Legends now, but battle
royales.
Yeah, but like I gotta be honest, like, I don't think Fortnite. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, no, I
don't think Fortnite's going anywhere though. Unfortunately, like it seems like Epic found kind of the perfect equation of exactly what kids want.
I mean, it's got 170,000 viewers on Twitch.
I'm just saying, you don't think Black Ops is going to blow up its spot a little bit when it comes out, because they have that mode. I mean, I've been watching streamers.
Yeah, they do. I think that's going to, if anything, give PUBG more of a run for its money out of their audience than it is for Fortnite, because Fortnite just tackles Battle Royale completely differently. Like I've heard people draw more parallels between Blackout as I think Black Ops 4's Battle Royale and PUBG. You know, but nobody's really compared that with Fortnite. It's just kind of been.
I think the big thing for Fortnite is just like the it's a free-to-play game, and when you're a fucking like 14-year-old kid and like
the scum of the earth, the worst person alive, as we all know.
But you're not fucking, or like a 12 or a 10-year-old kid. It's like you don't have a job. It's like at most maybe you get like $20 from your parents at the end of the month. Well, I don't know. Maybe inflation, kids are making more now, but you can't fucking go out and just like buy games. So fucking being able to save your money on games and play a free game like Fortnite, you know?
Well, and that's part of the perfect equation. It's like they took a note from the big MOBAs right now, and like they realized if they want to be big, you know, first and foremost, they're going to want a free-to-play game that is amazingly good or popular. You know, you can differentiate between the two. But, you know, where they get most of their revenue based on microtransactions from like skins and things, you know, like that. So they took that and carried that into the Battle Royale franchise, made it look like fucking Minecraft, you know, for kids in terms of like art style. Obviously, it's not 8-bit, but like, they desperately
Pastel
tried to appeal to
colors,
kids with
yeah.
the graphics of it. Yeah, exactly. While
What-
making
which-
it completely accessible to them. So it's like, it was destined to do well.
Which also makes it run better on multiple platforms. You don't have to have a big, expensive gaming rig. You could have your grandma's leftover computer and run that
Yeah.
motherfucker. Mm-hmm.
Plus, you have like really big internet personalities that are starting to become, just huge because of this
Holy
game.
shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Ninja is like fucking ridiculous. Fucking Drake played with him. Drake played Fortnite. Fucking.
There's been like 4 rappers so far that have played Fortnite with Ninja, and it's like this is only getting it bigger. Yeah, I don't know. We may see it drag on for at least another couple of years, but really depends on Epic.
Yep.
I
All
don't
right.
know. Maybe I'm an old man at this point. I'm like, oh, you darn kid. Back in my day,
I mean,
played
it's
Star
fun.
Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's all good. There you go. Yeah, definitely for sure. But I mean, to give Fortnite credit, I mean, it knows what it is. It does it really solid, and it has a surprising amount of depth. And if you watch those streamers and like that ridiculous fucking building they can do within 10 seconds, I mean, the skill ceiling is high, and they did everything right. I kind of agree. I mean, as far as this genre, I think this is probably going to be the pinnacle of it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe to cap off the whole crossplay discussion, though, is like, what games do you want to see crossplayed, and onto what consoles?
Ooh, that's-
Oh, jeez.
I feel like Call of Duty is an easy one. I mean, that's so
Yeah.
big. I mean, I think that'd be really straightforward.
yeah, absolutely.
I think that would feed right into the whole, like, Doritos, Mountain Dew.
I mean, they got to get their shit together. I mean, COD's been trash for like a couple years now, so they got to get it together. But I think that'd be easy. I mean, that's an easy place to start.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Put those Dorito fingers back in play.
I think it might would probably be Killing Floor 2, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
think-
card games, I think, would be good.
The card games would definitely be good, just because it doesn't require a lot of quick reactions. Or
As the future Artifact World Champion, I think that would make a great game for crossplay. So,
I think that one is getting crossplays.
I think they have plans eventually to bring it to mobile, but right now it's only PC and mobile. So,
I guess the hot take I would give on this is I am surprised how little I care, because I guess I just don't play. I'm totally past that whole play with my friends online on Xbox Live thing. It was a huge part of my life. I fucking love the shit out of it, and I remember it clearly. But like, sort of like 4 years ago, it's like I don't care. We're gonna do our own shit. It's like,
yeah.
It's just if I'm playing something competitive, I really don't want to like just fucking matchmake with complete shitters.
no, yeah, exactly.
Oh.
No, fair's fair.
Yeah, no, get them out of my fucking playlist. No, you're right. I feel you. All right.
Oh,
All right, so we're gonna talk about Bowsette now, because that's
yep, that's the next topic.
that's number 2 on the docket, right?
All right, good. Let me get my deck out.
Bowsette and why the internet can't be trusted with anything. That's what's coming up next.
You know about this, right, Derek?
Transgender Koopas, yeah.
Oh my god,
Dude, the subreddit is lit. It blew up in like a week. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen.
There's already a fucking convention planned in Japan.
Oh good
for-
god.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
we've
yeah.
taken this too far as a society.
Dude,
Like, what
God
the
is
fuck is
sorry he made us. Jeez.
Every
the
day we
cosplay
stray
is
further
fucked
from
up,
God's
right?
life.
Just saying.
Dude, we gotta start over.
Oh god.
just nuke it all. Nuke it from orbit.
I need a hard reset on life.
Video games were a mistake.
So, I think we'll move on to Devil May Cry next. So the new Devil May Cry game coming out relatively soon.
The game franchise that nobody asked for.
Oh,
Never played for
wow.
that. Never played
I'm-
Devil May Cry.
I like Devil May Cry. It's like a fun for anyone who's not aware.
It's pretty decent.
It's a pretty fun spectacle fighter.
Hack and slash?
Yeah,
It's hack and slashy, right? Yeah.
Like mobs of enemies show up. You kick the crap out of them. You kick them into the sky, and then shoot them in the face with your surprisingly weak handguns.
More like
Combo,
an
combo,
edgy,
combo, stylish points.
Yeah,
Good.
that's
kind of like
it's-
an edgy emo version of God of War, right?
that's you know what?
Really
I'm
is.
upset that I can't say you're wrong.
Dude, Kratos was pretty edgy in like the first games. Like, you cannot say Kratos was an edgelord in 1 and 2.
Yeah, but it was
he wasn't
emo,
emo though.
Yeah. I'm part angel and part demon. My life is so much pain.
So
I'm gonna shoot you with my
so
guns.
a lot of people.
Well, that's Japanese games. Sorry to derail it, but that's
Sorry.
the entire problem with Japanese games, and that's why I don't play them that often, is because that's the fucking same main character. It's an androgynous 13-year-old, and he has a lot of emotional issues that he has to figure out through his friendship.
Hey,
How
some people
dare
like
you
that.
talk shit about Noctis from
Mhm.
Final Fantasy 15?
What were you Oh my god, that's so true.
So getting back on topic.
Okay.
Devil May Cry 5 is actually a very anticipated game, despite our opinions. It's a very popular game series. But when the new, fairly recently, it was announced that there would be microtransactions.
Yeah, at the Tokyo Game Show, right?
Yep, the Tokyo Game Show. Now this is not the first time that microtransactions have been in a Devil May Cry game. They were actually Devil May Cry 4, the digital remaster. But the game was not built around it, and we definitely didn't live in the climate that we do, where microtransactions are a big deal and are frequently used. So obviously people were very upset when they heard about them. And actually on September, on DualShockers.com, just Nelva actually posted released an article titled "Devil May Cry 5: How many red orbs can you get by playing the game?" Basically, looking at it and seeing if it's going to be possible to play the game at a reasonable pace and consistently be able to advance your character and buy upgrades and not have to spend in-game and not have to spend real money to do so. So kind of a quote here. I started the level with 4,377 orbs. By the final boss, it had reached 26,840. Of course, counting the herbs we used during the level, I believe. Trying to say. This means that by merely killing stuff and breaking red clusters, we accrued 20,004. Moving forward and moving a little further down here, on top of that, you receive a sizable number of bonus orbs after killing the boss, depending on your stylish rank. A rather crappy B rank provides nearly 20,000 orbs. This means that a single level played by a scrub like me can easily net you over 40,000 orbs. Finishing with a higher rank can, if you're really good, which I am not, earn twice that post-mission bonus, 8,000 orbs. So, I mean, taking into account what they say here is that progression costs anywhere between 8,000 and 10,000 orbs at low tier ability, while the highest here one specific exception is the top ability of another line costs a whopping 3 million orbs. It is not an attack using. So it seems like progression is fairly good towards the beginning, and it may be getting a little grindy towards. But the thing that people to kind of have an issue with, and where I can absolutely see problems arising, is the revive feature. Basically, while playing the game, if you were to die, say for example in the middle of traditionally you would need to start over to checkpoint at the very beginning of the boss, or you could spend looks like 1,500 orbs for 30% of your back, or 3,000 orbs, 100% of non-upgraded, and 75,000 orbs if you want all of your health back and to receive a health boost. Now the big question I think that rises up is, because these numbers will actually become bigger every time you die. So the second time you use a revive, same mission, the values go to 7,500, 15,000, and 37,500 respectively. The question is this going to be used to basically put people in a frame of mind where they've just lost a fight, and they don't want to go back all the way back to the checkpoint. So they start buying revives with this particularly difficult section, and they're more or less kind of strong-armed into either going back a significant portion of the game, or basically having to pay real money to revive.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to play the game. I have to do it all over. Oh no. Oh,
Yeah,
sad. I don't know, man. That's a lot of that's just kind of like, if they balance the bosses to be like fucking impossible, and then it basically, I feel like that would be strong arming. It's like you can't beat it unless you spend money. What this sounds like is they're giving shortcuts to people who don't want to play their video games for whatever reason, and so as far as I'm concerned, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. I will say a couple things. One, this isn't the first time that they've actually had like microtransactions to buy orbs and buy upgrades or whatnot. I mean,
Yeah, it's not. They did that with Devil May Cry 4.
Though, I mean, to be fair, is like they say that game was balanced to not have that as an option. Like that was added.
Because
I
that
know,
was
Yes.
added in the digital re-release.
Yeah. And so the problem is whether or not that it's trying to be sort of extortive. Like we talked a couple weeks ago about NBA, the multiplayer, where basically people could pay for better teams, basically, and that the grind for it was so hard. Like they reduced the XP that you would gain after the beta and after like all the review copies came out. So you had to like it was just pushed it even more and more. So you, in order to be competitive in multiplayer, you had to spend the money. I think the opinions are pretty towards that you don't need to do this, but it's not. But it makes it more of a challenge. I mean, like it's not easy, but I guess it's still doable without paying for it. That's
what it comes down to for me. Is the game playable without paying for it, and then you just have to decide what kind of a gamer you are.
Though it is like, I mean, so I guess it kind of goes to the grindy nature of the game. It's like if you have to play a level like 20 times to build up to get like this big item that you basically need in order for like some of the later missions or something like that, then it's pretty extortive. But on the flip side, though, it's like the Japanese culture is also very grindy in and of itself. I mean, look at any JRPG.
I don't even think you have to go to JRPGs. I mean, I remember games from my childhood where if you want to get certain things, you got to go grind some shit out. So I don't necessarily. I mean, like Ratchet and Clank, if you want to get like the quote unquote best weapon in the game, you grind out bolts. You just go around and do it. Grinding is a part of gaming. I don't think that's necessarily like a microtransaction specific problem.
My only thing with this is, and this is, I swear it's the only problem I have with it, is are there enough orbs within the game of being able to do a full playthrough to be able to acquire all the skills in the skill tree?
100%, right there with you.
Because if it's not, then yes, this is a huge fucking problem and should not be supported. But like otherwise, you know,
you should have access to all
listen,
the basic stuff. Yeah.
This is the way that I pay it. Like if you pay $60, you know, to buy a game, and you want to like shorten your total gameplay hours of the entire game by like, you know, at least like 40 or some shit like that, just because you want to, you know, buy your way to the very end. It's like, well, you know, it sucks for you, I guess, because you just dumped all that money into the game and now you're not even really playing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so yeah, but
yeah. No, I completely agree with you. If the game is playable and then they just add this shit on top of it, I really don't care. If it's unplayable, then that's a mortal sin. They can't fucking do that. That's, you know, that's ridiculous. But from what it sounds like, it doesn't really sound. It's the same thing as Shadow of War, the Mordor game that came out a while ago. They added microtransactions, but I can tell you I played through that entire game. I did not notice any discernible. I didn't have to do anything extra, nothing like that. I mean, it was a single-player game. It was great. So if it's like that, I really don't see what the problem is, honestly.
Right. I mean, just a little back note, I guess, for people who, like, you know, are not really initiated in the Devil May Cry series. So, like, in DMC 5, like, there are these things, these objects called divinity statues. Like, they're actual statues that you interact with, right? And they're like a shop of sorts they use to purchase upgrades by, like, trading in orbs and things that you collect by defeating enemies. And, you know, you acquire orbs from the environment as well. This microtransaction issue comes into play by you being able to, so like now on the Divinity statue, there is a card reader, and you take your MasterCard out of your wallet and you actually like swipe it.
Oh, like in game?
In game, like in game. I mean, yeah. You more or less are going to do that, though. It's like essentially bypassing the skill tree progression and like fast tracking your orb count early on. But yeah.
A lot of people are theorizing that, I mean, because after some interviews with the game's creator, like the guy who's like behind the whole franchise, and that like that this is something that they kind of had to like push for and really include in order to kind of sell the idea to get this game made. And if they can implement it in a way that's pretty benign, you know, sort of like Shadow War, then I think it's completely acceptable. Because it's like, I mean, at first I was kind of like the whole idea of like, why would you need like DLC or like microtransactions in a single player game? But in my opinion, I think that's probably better than multiplayer games, because it's like you're not fucking over anybody else's game, and really, if anything, you're only paying to not play the game yourself, which you'd only want to do if the game was bad. But if it's bad, why are you playing it in the first place? So I don't know.
Yeah, like in a perfect world, they're only cosmetics, right? Like you can buy skins and whatnot. That's like ideal, because it's like, yeah, I want this. It looks cool. But as far as this, I mean, yeah, it's like the only argument I've ever heard is some people are like, yeah, you know, I'm a fucking, I work all day. I want to get through the game. I don't have like, you know, a whole day to try to grind through one boss. It'd be a little helpful if I could get a little help. And I don't know if those guys are just shills online or whatever you want to call them. But like I said, if the game's playable without it, I really don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about stuff like Day 1 DLC?
Got to Day 1 DLC almost always.
Or like deluxe editions that have extra missions.
I've never been a fan of Day 1 DLC.
Yeah, I mean, like, are we talking about like pre-order stuff too?
Yeah.
The pre-orders don't. Well, okay, so pre-orders don't fuck with me that much because like.
But what if there's like extra missions and shit?
No, okay, so Total War specifically, which is going to come up later, but Total War has done that the last couple cycles, and for me, it's like, well, I'm going to buy this game anyway, so why don't I just put it down now? It doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, in principle, yeah, because it's in the fucking game. Like, it's clearly in the code, and you're just unlocking it, so that's shitty, and you have to pay for it. But the pre-order part doesn't kill me. Like, straight up, like, Day 1 DLC, if it's just cosmetic, once again, doesn't bother me, because maybe I don't want that cosmetic. But if it's an extra mission, if it's a whole extra faction, a campaign, like, all that kind of stuff, it's like, well, I just paid $60. Like, what the fuck do I have to pay another $5 to get this?
I remember,
if they're withholding game content just for Day 1, then that's a problem.
What was that? There was a game, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, where they...
Mass Effect 2.
Was that it? Okay, yeah.
The fucking Forerunner, or what? Not Forerunner.
It was the was it Mass Effect 2 or was it 3 with the?
No, it was 2 with the insect dude.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And he was on the. They was literally in the code.
The Prothean.
And
He was a Prothean.
That was Mass Effect 3 then.
Oh, it was Mass Effect 3? Okay.
Yeah, but that's we were talking about the same thing. But yeah, you just paid to unlock him, and that was ridiculous.
But also it's like that mission itself was like pretty integral to like understanding the story. You know what I mean? And like what the Protheans. I mean, you get a fucking Prothean in your team. You get to talk to him and understand like.
I don't want to get into like a whole Mass Effect tangent, but I don't know if it was critical. I mean, if someone played Mass Effect 1 and 2, they were familiar with who the Protheans are and what happened. The whole thing with 3 is they just kind of fleshed out their fall. So I wouldn't say it was integral to Mass Effect's story. It was there for the fans, and it should have been there by default.
Yeah, it was integral to the Mass Effect deep lore.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a lore nerd, that was fucking awesome. And I didn't have to pay for it because I pre-ordered. But
yeah, same here. I don't think. Maybe it's not necessary. I don't think it's deep lore. Maybe it's not critical, but I think it's pretty important because I think it's some pretty essential shit. It's like, okay, so why did the Protheans like? There's a lot of hanging questions that just don't get answered unless you get that DLC.
You get to see their fall. I mean, you had all the answers as far as the main story, like why and how.
You never knew about like. I mean, like.
Look, Mass Effect 3 has a shitload of problems aside from DLC, so we could go about this all day.
Yeah.
Still like that game. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. I will say one more thing about Mass Effect 3. This doesn't even connect to anything, but after all the DLC and stuff they added on to the end game later, I'd give that game like a solid 9. I think Mass Effect 3 is not as trash as people think it is. Vanilla it is, but with all the extended content, it's really good.
It's almost as good as Andromeda.
They rushed it. I mean, that's the whole problem. They rushed Mass Effect 3.
So, I mean, like this DLC, like the sort of like microtransactions shit. I mean, this doesn't bug me, but it's like a lot of that shit. I mean, basically, I'm thinking, well, if EA was in the shoes of the people that made this, how would they fuck it up? And that's when I think of like the day one DLC or extra missions or like all this other, like they try to make, I don't know, fucking.
Yeah, Capcom hasn't made the best of decisions, but they're kind of far from EA.
Hey, they're no Konami.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, we just gotta try to deal with it and put them in the games we want, because microtransactions ain't going anywhere. I mean, I'm gonna bring up the numbers, but I mean, FIFA card packs alone, the amount of money EA makes off that a year. I mean, there's no reason for them to get rid of the product. Yeah, it's insane.
It makes more than all their other games.
So if they want to keep it in that game, that's fine. People clearly have a market for it. I think it's at this point, it's more just like, okay, we'll keep it out of these because we don't really need it here.
Yeah, I think it's important that we just kind of understand like where that line is, and that when people cross it, like we fucking call them out on it, and make them pay with their wallets. You know?
Yeah, agreed. Battlefront 2 when it first came out was unacceptable. How it is now, it's a lot better. But like exactly, we had to yell about that to make it happen. So
I'm a lot more forgiving about it on single player games. Like if you want to just completely ruin your gaming experience by just like buying everything right away.
Oh. Did we lose you?
I think we lost you.
Rip Derek.
Well, I mean, while we wait for him to come back, I did just think of something. So single player games, I mean, I'm right there with him on that. It really doesn't bother me as long as you can play the fucking game. But for multiplayer ones,
cosmetic shit, yeah. Then at that point, I'm just like, no, fuck all that, you know.
The one thing I always did think about, though, that would made me think Battlefield 3 when that came out. I remember, I don't know if anyone else does, but there were things you could buy to basically unlock every gun, gadget, or what have you for each class.
Yeah,
it was like 40, and I was always like, well, why the fuck would you want to do that? It's the whole point of playing that you level up and then you get new shit. Like, why would you want to keep playing? And I did start to think about streamers and other people who make that shit their job, to where necessarily they might not want to have to do all the grindy stuff to get their audience. See. Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense, but I think what it comes down to in a lot is you're paying to not play the game. So whatever your reason is for that, you got to figure that on your own. But that's basically what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't. Well,
But if them paying for it makes all the people who didn't not able to play the game, that's what the problem is. If you want to pay to not fucking play the thing you bought, then that's fine. But I don't want to pay anything. I just want to play it. So if you fuck me over, that's where the problem starts.
I think the line is where it's like, if the game is either A, bad or unplayable unless you pay more money on top of what you've already
paid. Pay to win. We're gonna say it. It's right there. Pay to win.
No, I'm saying like single player. Like let's say there's like a bug in a game and you had to pay to download a patch that removes that bug. That's fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, agreed. But we're not at that level yet.
But I mean, saying like in the future, if there's like an RPG that comes out and like basically levels are almost impossible unless you like fucking download this one downloadable weapon that like has extra damage or something. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that where it's like maybe that's not a good example, but it's like
no. I mean, I feel you. I think my whole thing is just like though for single player games, it's not as large a market anymore, so I don't feel like that would come up. I mean, the people who still are hardcore single game players, when that shit happens, I mean, there's a big outcry about it. So I think we're gonna see this a lot more in multiplayer. It's pretty much gonna be nonstop on there. But every time we see something like this on single player, there's going to be a lot of questioning going on.
Yep.
Because let's face it, everyone's going to buy the new COD and the new FIFA. It doesn't matter what happens. I mean, it's established. But if you make a new RPG or a new, anything like that, it's going to be like, well, I'm really into this IP. And now you're like switching all around. Like if they made KOTOR 3 and to get companions, you had to buy them. I mean, people would shit their pants. You know what I mean? So I'm not too worried about single player games getting ruined by it. But
yeah, it is worth noting that there were a couple quotes, I guess, from this. Devil May Cry 5's producer Matt Walker. He said he felt pretty confident in the game's outlook on the release, despite the public outcry against the decision on microtransactions. I think he said, it's understandable that people are worried about microtransactions in games, and I'm happy knowing that people will be reassured when they play the game and find out that it's balanced in all the other ways that DMC is in. So, I don't know. And then their director also said something about those people can do that if they want, but on the other hand, I feel like you don't have to get all the moves. You should be able to play the game the way you want to play it, which kind of worried me a bit because it sounded like more or less what the director was saying was you're not going to be able to get all the moves in your playthrough, and that, because he's not worried about that. Just it's like, you can play however you want to play, but he feels like you don't have to get all the moves if you don't want to. So I'm not entirely sure what that means. It's kind of a...
Yeah. That does make me wonder, because I've played games where like you do pick a tree, and then obviously you don't get to fill out every single tree. You specialize yourself. So if it's like that, that's totally acceptable. You play the way that suits you. But if it's like you, there's crucial stuff and it's all spread around and you just can't get it, then yeah, it's a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at, like I said, the most expensive ability being 3 million orbs.
But you said that wasn't combat, right?
Yeah, that was a non.
So what is it? Is it like a cosmetic move or something? Like, what is it then?
It doesn't explicitly say. It simply says it's not an attack used in combat.
So that doesn't worry me then, because that just feels like something for the hardcore, like 100% completionists. I grind out 3 million for a fucking whatever move. If you don't have to use it in combat, I don't think that's a problem.
Well, I know in DMC 4, the skill tree actually, each of the skills progressively got more expensive when you were buying another skill. So like a skill that costs 200 Proud Souls in Dark Souls 4 at the beginning of the game, if you avoided buying that until you bought like 16 other skills, then that one's now going to cost like 18,000, not 200. Everything progressively gets more expensive as you buy more skills. So like there's kind of like an upward tick to the amount that you're going to need by the end of the game. It's kind of like an exponential curve. Like it goes up pretty fast. But I don't know. Like, so that just kind of worries me. Like if that's going to be brought into Devil May Cry 5, it can get really expensive to max out the skills, and so I'm not sure there's enough souls in the entire game to be able to do that, but I guess we'll see. I just haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much where we're at. We just gotta wait for people to start playing it and get like 2 or 3 weeks into the life cycle, and if the game's not playable, it's garbage, and if it is, then it's really not that big of a deal. But it's unfortunately one of those things you gotta kind of wait and see, because none of us have it hands-on.
Yeah, come on, Capcom.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean...
Alrighty. I think we've beaten that horse. Want to talk about Total War now?
Yeah. I mean, microtransactions has just become a really bad buzzword. I mean, rightfully so, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's one
No,
thing...
I don't want to drag us back into it. No, we were moving on. No,
right.
sorry.
All right. Hey, Total War. So where'd my notes go? No, you aren't my notes. Go away. So Total War 2 Rome. Actually, let me make sure I have the exact title to make sure I'm not fucking.
Total War Rome 2.
Total War Rome 2 Emperor Edition.
Okay. Yeah.
Was recently review bombed on Steam, and so this kind of all started back with a post. With a post that basically he said they insist that over 50% of their generals were women, and he offered a screenshot as proof. And it's like where he's showing like all 5 of the available generals were women, and he believed that this is because in a recent patch that basically they patched it so that female generals would spawn more.
SJWing it up. What are you gonna do? Slamming the conservatives. What are you gonna do about it?
And so I guess the person who's in charge of their forums basically said that I convey the views of the company, which is where the statement regarding the historical authenticity and historical accuracy originates. Oh, that's not the quote. Basically, she says, if you don't like it, you don't have to play the game. But that she also said that this wasn't a part of like some update. That the game is the same as it always been, and that if you want to be, some misogynistic asshole, go do it somewhere else and don't play our game.
Yeah,
this
they've
pissed off a
essentially
lot
said
of
they're not going to change that. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people were upset because it's like they didn't believe that they were spawning more often than what is historically accurate, and then that PR move basically to say, well, don't play my game, and then they like took it upon themselves to go and review bomb the game. And I mean, I can understand. No, I really can't. That when people talk about like historical accuracy in a lot of different stuff, it gets a little bit frustrating when people will like look at the historical accuracy of one thing, but then completely ignore everything else as long as it doesn't fit like their kind of like agenda or like things like that. When they basically want to make it into like this big political issue, and they sort of like take it upon themselves. Well, we can't hurt their pocketbooks because we already bought the game, so we're going to go and do what we can, which is review bomb on Steam. And this is a thing that's happened so often now that Steam's actually had to implement their own sort of features. If you guys look in the Discord general chat, there's basically when review bombs hit, Steam will detect this automatically and will notify people so they can then filter out it and like kind of like figure out what they are. But you can see in that screenshot just how many reviews got posted in such a short time. Yeah, I think that when we try to drag, like, I don't know, I'm just really frustrated about how people try to like drag in these politics and things and like dredge up and make this about something more than just basic game issues. And like because it's hard to tell, because it's like on one hand it's like you obviously you don't want to basically be pandered to or be pushed agendas by like game companies, but then you also you want them to be able to just make the game that they want to make, and so you don't want them to be, I mean, it's a catch-22, because if you do it, then you're going to be hated on for not doing, for trying to push some sort of agenda and bringing politics into games. But if you don't do it, then you're kind of like being left behind in the times. Or even if you just try to make the game that you want, which is like here in Total War, in the Total War game, the spawn rate of the generals is statistically accurate to the times, and then it's like they only spawn like very, very rarely. Well, actually, in the game, I think they spawned enough that like just so that because if they were accurate, they would never ever spawn.
Well, and this is the DLC, right? This isn't the base game. This is the Desert Kingdoms DLC that had this whole dilemma.
Well, I think it was like it was an update to that DLC, and the thing that was updated was because like I guess the factions that normally wouldn't have female generals at all, because people could marry into it. Like that's when they started popping up more. So basically, people could marry into these families, and then you would have more female generals available.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up CA's numbers here. I actually was following this one a little closely because I do play Total War so much. So, if the numbers they posted are accurate, I really don't think it's that much of a problem, and I think it's just some guy got a really shitty RNG. But basically, they're saying that almost all factions have a 10 to 15% rate to spawn this at base, and then if you marry people into your family, that increases obviously because you're adding to it. But Rome, Greece, a lot of the Eastern factions, and I believe there was one more, I can't remember who it was, basically have a 0% chance to do this. It's just some people are just like, well, no women generals, it never happened, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, that's just blatantly false. I mean, it did happen a lot throughout history. The problem I think they're experiencing is because it's so fucking condensed, it's going to happen more. So, there might have been one every other century in real life, but you're playing a game that condenses, all that time into 300 turns if you're playing the end of campaign. So it's going to pop up a lot more. The only problem I have with it is their community forums person's response, because they really that to me just seems like someone they did not get any. They didn't even think this was going to be a problem. They got no official answer from up top. So okay, I got to handle this myself. She's like, fuck you about it. It's like, well, that's not how it's garbage. So
yeah, I do think that her response definitely created the the aftermath of that we saw with the review bombing.
Oh yeah.
And I will say that Ellen McConnell is her name. She's a community content editor at Creative Assembly. She did say that the Total War games are historically authentic, not historically accurate. So just in saying that itself, I think she's implying that they understand that the ratio is off, that it's not accurate. But, she followed up with that by saying that if having female units upsets you that much, you can either mod them or just not play. And people saying they won't buy the game because there are too many women in it's fine with us. That's the reason. We'd rather them not play anyway. Well, that's like a pretty fiery response to those claims. And it only ended up stirring up the critics even more, which resulted in 21% of all the reviews in the past.
Yeah, they should have chilled out. I mean, it's like what Reed said as far as picking and choosing what you want to be historical. I mean, in the game you can have full stacks of 20 units of palace guards. For Rome, example, the Praetorians, they were the emperor's personal guards. They wouldn't be going out on campaign, let alone being 4,000 of them. So if you have an army like that and it's led by a woman and that's the part you're upset about, then that's the problem. That you've got to look at yourself on that one. But I will say there is a thing I do have a little bit about historical accuracy in games. I mean, the last Call of Duty World War II, it made me think about it a little bit, because a lot of these people, when I was a kid, a lot of these games kind of taught me about history, or at least got me interested in it to the regard. So with Call of Duty in specific, I mean, with the different kind of troops you can have, it's just doesn't make sense. They changed history. I think that's the problem. If you change history and you rewrite it, basically, then I think there is a legitimate controversy. But with what CA did here, it's a 10 to 15% spawn rate. It's basically player controlled at a certain point. And on top of all this other stuff, I mean, it's just kind of out of line. It doesn't really make sense to me.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you look at fucking Battlefield 1. It's nobody had those machine guns. No one was. A lot of those experimental guns that you use in that game on a regular basis never even saw action.
It's funny that you remind me that, though, because of Battlefield 5 coming out now. I legitimately have a problem with that, because they're making World War II to be this whole. Because they're selling it as it's a World War II game, like Battlefield 1, or at least that's the things I've seen. But it's completely it's not even close. The previews they've shown are absurd about what you would see. The machine guns were crazy, but the maps, the character costumes, I mean, everything else in Battlefield 1 historically was accurate. I mean, it was really solid. They got the landscapes, the geography, that was all right. So when you start getting people with French amputees with mohawks running around and teabagging Germans, it gets a little weird for me, but it's...
I mean, yeah, I think that's a pretty good parallel, because there was a controversy in the upcoming Battlefield game where basically one of the big trailers is about female soldiers and whatnot, and then people were really upset that they had the inclusion of female soldiers, which predominantly didn't exist. And then they also had a really bad PR response to that, where they basically told the people who criticized this to basically go fuck themselves.
Which honestly, they can go fuck themselves, because I'm a decent history fan, and I mean, the whole thing that came out after that, you got to learn your history. It's the Soviets were the only ones to really have any female battalions whatsoever, other than guerrilla fighters in France and Poland or whatever, what have you. So with them saying it's just this normalized thing, that kind of ties into rewriting history for me. I mean, it just wasn't. Yeah. There wasn't that didn't happen. So
I mean, they can go fuck themselves, but you can't as a company say that though.
No, I meant the company go fuck itself with that response.
Oh, the company.
That's totally fuck them. You can't just that's the same thing I have with the forum responder. That's not your job. You can't just say, well, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. You didn't even fucking work on it. Who the hell are you?
Look at how that worked out for Jessica Price.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the thing that I was gonna get at. I mean, when has this ever worked? I can't think of a single time where anybody in any field was yeah, well, if you disagree with me, you're a sexist, you're a racist. That has never ever worked.
Yeah, but that's the climate now. That's just kind of what it is. It's just easy to
do. Same thing's going on with Disney right now. Everyone's criticizing a lot of the people about Star Wars and whatnot because their last movies were awful, and everyone was upset about it. But people started calling. No,
if you don't like Rose,
babies.
Yeah, if you don't like Rose, because Rose was a garbage character, then you're a sexist. That's what it came to. You're a man baby because Star Wars is for children. It's well, I've been into this shit for 15 years now. Like, I'm just supposed to stop liking it? Like, what do you want from me?
And then you start looking at like their Instagram posts where they're drinking out of like coffee mugs that say fans tears and stuff like that. Well, it's like I'm sorry, but we're the fucking people who pay your bills. You know what I mean? It's like we are the people who consume the media that you create. I mean, like Star Wars has had a huge downturn because basically the sort of PR response, people being like, well, if you don't like the way that we do it, then blah 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 blah. I was like, listen, we're not the problem here. We don't have issues with the issues that you're bringing up. We have issue with how you are shoehorning it, kind of into it. And that wasn't even like tied to like tying it back to the Total War. That wasn't even a thing here. They weren't trying to shoehorn some agenda. That was just like imagined basically or brought up by just like somebody here. And so, but then they kind of like took it and they got on their high horse and they went too far, And it's like these fans. I don't think maybe they should have overreacted. I mean, it's shitty their response, but I don't think they should have overreacted. Got maybe the way they did, but it's like they definitely, like CA definitely should have handled the whole situation way better.
Yeah, I mean,
there's just no winners on either side, in my opinion.
No, I mean, both sides are trash. I mean, they're both just absolute shit. It's like there's no one I can side with on this.
I mean, well, it's obviously like the majority because it's like you look at the review bombs. It's only like I think like a couple hundred review bombs, which is only like a small, tiny minority of the player base, like the people who bought the game in general. The vast majority of players, like yourself, just don't give a fuck. You didn't notice it in the first place.
It's the most vocal ones are the ones you're going to be based off
of,
and they're usually the most ignorant. Unfortunately, that's really though not to take away from what CA did. I mean. It almost makes me want to feel like, because on some level I do get it, where it's, but then it ties in with the whole like you have unrealistic armies in the first place. So like, what are you getting? Like, what's the part of it that upsets you? But I feel like they could have made this easier. This like it's a special thing, like an event. You get this, and you get this certain general. They have higher stats, and it's not a problem. But then again, like a lot of this is just because you marry people into your family in the game, and then they go into the general pool. That's just how it works. So if you just keep fucking marrying people, that's how the game's gonna look for you. Like it's not like a fucking tome that was written 800 years ago. It's a living thing. Like you're doing this to yourself. So I don't know.
Yep. I mean, and I guess tying into the bigger issue, it's becoming more and more frustrating how we're seeing a lot more outrage culture like leaking into like gaming culture, because I mean in the outside world everything's just fucked. Everyone's at each other's throats. Everyone's blaming everybody for all the problems that are going on right now. It's a very tense and very contentious time out in the political landscape, and that's kind of like starting to leak in to games or whatnot, because people have this general frustration, and so now it's like fucking you can't turn anywhere without people suddenly getting up in arms or like.
I mean, it's been here since Gamergate. Let's be real.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's been here for a while now,
and it's causing like these huge divisions. I mean, in like gaming culture, when it's like a lot of times, like most of the people that I meet like through games are some of the most reasonable. Like they're more reasonable than people that I meet out in like the real fucking world. You know what I mean? Because you can have this suddenly once you realize that you have a connection with somebody and you meet them and you like play with them online, you can then like have a much better. I mean, aside from the people who have all fucked my mom, almost everybody else that like I've met, like people I play with in my Dota 2 leagues, are like also like the coolest people that I've met, and they're like just like super chill, which is like far and away from like some of the worst that I've seen both in gaming or especially in real life. So I don't know.
The whole point of it is just stay away from social media. It's bad for you. If anyone's listening, delete Facebook, hit the gym, lawyer up, all that shit. It's just garbage. Twitter is the worst invention of this entire fucking century. It's just a bunch of dumb assholes can get on and spew their stupid ass opinion. Since when? I mean, the fucking flat Earth thing is a thing again now. Like, what the hell happened in the last 10 years, guys?
Hey, speaking of which, be sure to follow our Twitter.
Wait, do we have a Twitter yet?
No, we don't have a Twitter.
That's been on our to-do list for like 5 weeks now.
But you're part of the problem then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's just
No,
garbage.
See, that's why we're holding off.
You know what used to happen? Some guy would see a female general in his game, and then he would go to his fucking D&D game the next night and bitch about it. And then that was it. That's where it stopped, and it's over. And now he can fucking get on a computer and talk to 20 million fucking people. It's the stupidest shit. We abuse the internet. We have to get rid of it for 10 years to reappreciate it.
Who's never browsed something awful before.
Listen, I'm just saying, get rid of the internet for 10 years. We are selfish. We don't appreciate it, and then we bring it back, and we learn how to behave ourselves.
Which brings us to our final topic for the night, Bowsette. Why the internet can't have nice things.
No, I mean, listen, I'm going to be in the envy of Bowsette is awesome. Bowsette is best girl.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
I don't want to be stepped on by Thwompette. Oh, no, I don't know, it's shitty. People are shitty. And it's like, well, not all people. Honestly, it's it's the fucking minorities, man. Or no, the minority.
Whoa!
The vocal minorities.
Damn minorities. Coming in and ruining the video games.
Whoa!
The vocal minorities.
Reed with a hot take.
Oh, God.
Reed with a new hot take. I'm going to soundbite that one.
So
You're
yeah,
gonna be
I'm
popular
that one
one
in
day, dude.
context.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm gonna shut up now.
No, legitimately though, to go back to it,
We're gonna
there is
get
a
review
fine
bombed now.
line. There's a fine line between like the pandering shit, which I feel like Call of Duty World War II did, and the female general thing, which is legitimate. There's a line. Like if you cross over too far, I get like I don't necessarily get the outrage, like the death threats. I'll never understand that, but I can kind of get like being like, what the fuck? Like this is kind of weird. Like why are you shoehorning this in? It feels unnecessary. So there is a line to be walked. It's not just black and white.
Yeah.
All right.
Like when there's black Nazi soldiers who are women, that's kind of like this. It fucks with
Jewish.
You. Like,
It's
yeah,
black
exactly.
Jewish female Nazis.
It's like I don't think that happened.
Well, I mean, who are you to say that a Jewish woman couldn't be in?
Well, I
I
thought World War II. Exactly.
You got to think about the current age we live in.
Jeremy, I identify as a black Jewish Nazi, so please don't.
And who are we all to say that Bowsette was not in World War II?
Oh, God.
I identify as Bowsette.
Dude,
It's
I would
World
pay
War
for that
II
DLC.
Bowsette.
Give me that microtransaction. I will buy it right now.
Did you say that? But somebody's gonna actually identify as Bowsette, and it's gonna be sad.
Yeah, it's me, and it's right here. Are you fucking questioning me? How dare you? You fucking pig. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I can't wait to see you at the
Absolutely going
convention.
to happen. Somebody's gonna be talking to their therapist about it like next week.
You keep saying it. I just told you. I identify. It really resonated with me last week when it came out.
I'm gonna need
God.
this on paper.
Yeah,
Though.
I like that.
And
I like that it's branching out now. And
He's
we
getting the
don't.
turtle shell.
who's that?
Who?
Who's that? Yeah.
Dude, Thwompette, she'll step on.
I did see one where Waluigi put on that crown and it didn't do anything because Waluigi's already the sexiest.
He's already perfect.
He's
Which we all
already
know.
perfect.
I mean, that was a straight up fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, Nintendo, stop oppressing Waluigi. Put him in Smash.
He's a trophy. Go cry
Man.
about it. You're a man, baby. Jeremy, go cry about it.
I will
Oh.
cry about it. You know what? I absolutely will. You don't even know.
Oh, I can't wait to review bomb this fucking podcast.
Oh,
Please remember to
man.
review bomb us on
Yep.
iTunes and Pod Feed. And...
To get review bombed, we have to have viewers read, so I think
Oh,
we'll be
shit.
okay for right now.
Yeah, guys, we're
Matt with the real issue.
we're shooting to be the next Alex Jones. Get us kicked off of Facebook. Get us kicked off of Twitter. Get us kicked off of everything. Yeah, we're
Well,
garbage.
Reed would be the Alex Jones at this point. He hates minorities, we heard earlier.
Listen, everybody knows that the problem is caused by Gamergate. It's run by ninja trolls from beneath Mars.
Wow. This I like this this liberal iteration of Alex
This went off the
Jones.
rails.
All right. Oh boy.
Well, I think that just about does it.
Does anyone else have any hot takes?
I'd say-
Completely unrelated. Does someone have something you're pissed off about games this week? You gotta get it out now. I want to hear it.
You know what? I actually there is something I'm really pissed off about. That I am like, I thought that, once I became an adult, I would have all this money to buy all the games I couldn't afford as a kid. Well, now I don't have any fucking time to play all these goddamn games. Fucking Red Dead's coming out. I haven't played like any last Assassin's Creed since fucking Assassin's Creed 3. I haven't fucking like. There's so many fucking games out now. I'm barely a little bit into Spider-Man, and like I have a healthy Dota addiction. There's no way I'm gonna get caught up. I'm fucking pissed. It upsets me. Fucking Red Dead's gonna come out. I'm like, that's gonna be probably the only thing I can play. But
Yeah,
that's gonna
at
eat
the
into
very
my
least,
artifact
get that
career.
one.
I have to sacrifice Red Dead if I want to have my artifact career.
I mean,
What are you-
life is all about compromise.
Come on, Jeremy, you're pissed off about something this week. What are you pissed off about? Or this month? Something happened in the gaming world that you're upset about.
I think the thing that I'm pissed off about in the gaming world, it's not specifically this month, but just in general, there needs to be more good horror games. Like, for real. I'm sitting here.
What was it? Silent Hill was decent, or not Silent Hill. Fuck me.
Yeah,
the
Silent
last
Hill was.
the last Resident Evil, I thought was really this first person one. I thought was really solid.
Yeah, you're right. It was. And then it's been completely radio silent on anybody other than Capcom as far as trying to capitalize on that.
Did the Evil Dead 2 that came out after Resident Evil, right? Or that came out before?
That's a good.
Hmm.
I think that's probably going to end up being one of those things where there's just not as big of a market for it, so it's kind of hard. I mean, it sucks, but I don't like horror games, I'll be honest, because I'm a pussy. But I mean, the last one I played was Alien Isolation. I couldn't get through the game because I was too scared. I just returned it. I had rented it. I had rented it in the first place. I didn't buy it and then go return it, but I returned it to the rental store I got it from.
Oh my god.
Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987, so it was before.
1987. That's the movie. The Evil Within. That's what I was talking about. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I'm a big dumb idiot.
The Evil Within did come out before Resident Evil 7, and you're right. That is another good example. But I mean, it's a dead genre for the most part, which sucks because I think there's a lot of, especially now that we're coming into newer technology and damn near photorealistic technology. I really think opportunity for survival horror to make a comeback.
Did you play Hellblade? Apparently that was like kind of creepy, but also like really good.
Yeah, Hellblade was really good. I played it. It had moments, but I would be hard pressed to call it a horror game.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I just
It
remembered.
definitely had a horror atmosphere at certain, and it definitely it got spooky occasionally. But for the most part, I'd argue that it's more a creepy action puzzler than a full-blown horror game. Kind of the same way I feel about Killing Floor. Killing Floor isn't a horror game so much as
It's a gore kind of.
Yeah.
Well, even like Dead by Daylight is like a fucking I was talking to my coworkers today about it, and he's like, it's really not a scary game anymore. It's mostly the only person who gets tortured is the fucking killer.
Oh my god. I've been recording Dead by Daylight for future live video. And I can 100% vouch you can't fucking win as a killer.
Oh, it's impossible.
If you do well, then you're accused of either face camping or cheating somehow. And if you do poorly, then you just get shit on. You're told about how shitty you are at the game. Dead by Daylight community has to be like the single most toxic community I have ever had the displeasure of playing.
Have you ever played League of Legends?
I have never played League of Legends.
Well, there you go.
Alright.
16-year-old Matt told people to go die in a chemical fire, so you don't know if you've experienced yet. Well, they were bad and they deserved it, so what do you want from me?
Yeah, no, that's what playing Dead by Daylight is
took
like.
away 60 minutes of your life.
Imagine there's 4 16-year-old Matts.
Yeah, if I'm gonna play a 45-minute fucking game and you're gonna be an ass clown the whole time, then you should go die. Go fuck yourself. I have no time for you. You're ruining. You're wasting my life.
Yeah, Jeremy, quit wasting people's
I would
time.
like to say I hope no one dies in a chemical fire. If your family did die in a chemical fire, I'm sorry for bringing it back up.
Yeah,
Back to review bombing. Alright.
Alright. Anybody else have anything they're mad about?
I mean, I'm always mad, but I mean, I think
Just a deep
Kotaku
underlying
is-
rage.
yeah, I hate Kotaku, and Polygon kind of made that list ever since was it their Doom preview they did, where the fucking person they had
that
play
was
it
that
had
was
no
beautiful.
fucking idea how to play a first-person shooter.
That was
Maybe game
hard.
journalism in general, I'm really pissed off about right now.
Yeah,
That's a good thing we're here to save the day. I mean, hey, we already saved Sony crossplay, so I mean,
It was all us. You guys can thank us.
yeah.
No, I agree. Games journalism is it's just a perpetual dumpster fire. People just dancing around, throwing more trash in.
Give me the one guy to say it. IGN is the only decently solid one I have because they don't get into the retarded. There was that one guy who ripped off the review of like the small time YouTuber, but they fired that reviewer immediately afterwards.
Oh yeah, no.
It's just like every other fucking gaming website has to get into this nonsense of like all this shit. Like IGN is the only one that's like, here's the game, here's the review of it, have a good time. Like fucking Kotaku has to have a 45-minute diatribe about like the fucking like the feminist themes of one particular puddle and I mean like the whole puddle controversy in the new Spider-Man game. Did you guys follow that at all?
No.
Oh
this is
yeah.
news to
Wait,
me.
that was a. Oh wait, that was a what?
In E3, basically, they showed a cutscene that made it into the actual release game of Spider-Man. There's a bunch of goons standing around. There's puddles on the ground, and then in the real game, the puddles are gone. So it's like
yeah.
Puddlegate.
Yeah, but it was like bullshit because they went back and they looked at it and they counted it and it just like.
Yeah, exactly.
The
That's what I
amount-
mean. It's like Kotaku represents the perfect, most nonsense. We said it before, but now that we're recording, I'm gonna get this shit on tape. It's the Facebook. Kotaku is the Facebook of gaming journalism. It's trash. It's sensationalist. I have no time for it.
Only serves to push their ads.
I could definitely.
Derek,
All
what are you
right.
mad about? No, Derek has to be mad about something. He doesn't get to get out of it. Everyone
Yeah,
else
there
is
we go.
mad about one thing.
I like it.
You know what I'm mad about?
What are you
Two
mad about,
letters.
Derek?
2 letters. EA.
A.
Oh, hey!
It's in the game.
We didn't.
Oh,
But
I
no,
thought
but
we were
honestly,
gonna go a
we
whole
talk shit on
episode.
EA literally every fucking podcast. I would like to not talk about EA.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought we were going to make it through the whole episode today without bringing up EA. So there you are, living rent free in
We'll
our
try
heads
next week.
another month or another week.
Mhm.
Oh man. Yep, I think that's just about do it for us. Kind of a short episode. This,
Oh, I gotta
It
be
was-
mad about more shit if you want to kill
It was-
some time.
it was
I mean,
fun.
you're gonna give me
It
a
was-
minute.
No, I think we're good. It was shorter, but it was more intense. I feel like it was very focused and like dialed in.
I agree. So I think that will just about do it for this has been the Not Important Gaming Podcast. Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. Special guest Matt today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Please subscribe to us here on Twitch. You can also go down to our description on the main channel, and you should see Doom Guide. Click on him. That will take you straight to our YouTube account. Subscribe there, and we have older videos. Basically, as soon as videos come down on Twitch, I try to get them up on YouTube, edited together. Add a little bit of music. It's a nice little deal. I think you. Other than that, as I said, thank you. Just have a
Love you.
Catch you next week.